Welcome back, everyone. So, a pretty unique event, a little faux pas or two, but nothing too serious, I guess. So it's not going to be war, perhaps, between Korea and Wales just yet. So let's go through it step by step. The article opens up with listing some of the common stereotypes, perhaps, about Welsh people or Wales in general. Just some cheap shots people often use as jokes. Maybe you've heard of some of these before. You know, I think in the past they did a lot of sheep farming. Maybe even still now they still do a lot of sheep farming. So jokes get made about how they love sheep a bit too much. Or their language is pretty consonant heavy, so the pronunciation is really difficult for English language speakers or for a lot of people. So they tend to get made fun of for the sounds in their language.
Even sounds. It's not just having all those letters.
Yeah, they look like English language characters. They're Latin characters, but they pronounce them differently, which causes a lot of confusion and hilarity. So yeah, don't make fun of the Welsh. They're wonderful people. I've been there many times. It's just a few silly stereotypes. So it just so turned out in a recent football-friendly game, Wales were playing South Korea. And so on Twitter, the Welsh wanted to welcome the Korean team, the Korean fans, you know, all in the spirit of this friendly game. And so they'd made a nice little piece of artwork showing a street scene with some Korean people, some Welsh people sort of mingling around together. And there was a shop in the background. And you could see on this shop, it said the word kimchi in English, and it had the Korean flag there, but it said Korean food in Chinese characters. And we're talking simplified Chinese characters, such as that they use on the mainland China, so not the same as Hong Kong or Taiwan, who use the more traditional type. So it just seemed really weird, and people were like, why does it say Korean food in Chinese? So I think what the article said was it's probably just a copy of a real street scene where in Wales there is a shop which sells Korean food, and it has the word kimchi written over the door, or the restaurant is called kimchi. And but the restaurant itself is actually run by Chinese people, and many of the patrons are Chinese. So that explains the restaurant itself. And the artist had just copied this real street scene, not realizing, oh, it says it in Chinese letters rather than in Korean, in Hangul. So no offense was meant, you know, they weren't trying to make fun of Korea or Chinese or anything. It was just perhaps a mistake based on a real restaurant, which seems like a bit of an anomaly in general. Korean food served by Chinese people. Complicated. Kind of amusing, and hopefully nothing too serious. The game went really well. It was 0-0 in the end.
Which is apparently is really well in football talk.
No fighting, no problems.
Okay,
it was calm, it was peaceful, it was friendly.
I see.
Wow. So let's dig into some of these issues. Obviously, I think one of the mistakes the artist made was when she's copying I think it was she, I don't know actually. They were copying the picture. They probably didn't notice the difference or know the difference between Chinese characters and Korean ones. They were probably unfamiliar. So what do you think about that? You know, does it bother you when people don't know the difference between Korean, Chinese and Japanese, the languages, the cultures, etc.?
I think of it as just an opportunity to try to share what I know about the differences, and that there are differences. I've never been upset about it. I think it's, you know, everyone is in there. Like if you showed me Ukrainian and Russian, I wouldn't know the difference between those two languages or anything. You know, I wouldn't know what looks like what if I were not educated enough, right? So it's just a part of education. Now, if there is someone who is intentionally doing this, that's a different story. But for someone who unintentionally, through ignorance, doesn't know the differences, no reason to get angry. Just tell them, oh yeah, Korean's like this, Japanese is like this, Chinese is like this. I can't tell you the difference between Taiwanese and Chinese in Hong Kong, but apparently Chinese is more simplified, but when I look at it, it doesn't look so simple to me. that type of idea.
That's a great reference point. Yes, I wouldn't know just by looking. Simplified Chinese, traditional Chinese.
And I try, but unless you know more deeply about it, it's hard.
Yeah. What do you think about this restaurant itself? You know, the owner of the restaurant was Chinese, and they are selling Korean food and using English to spell the word kimchi, which is the name of the restaurant, but then Chinese to say what the restaurant sells. Do you think this is perhaps wrong or a bad idea?
Not really at all. I don't think this is any sort of intentional disruption or defamation of any one culture. Rather, it's an amalgamation of a few different cultures, being a English-speaking area. Of course, there is Welsh, but people who go there can also speak English. The patrons, as you said, are mainly Chinese. And the guy from China, or girl, whoever it is, the owner, decided to cook and serve what they think is Korean food. Although I'm wondering about the authenticity, but especially if kimchi is like the main point that they're putting out there. But they decided to put these cultures together and make a restaurant out of it, and that's completely fine.
I suppose there must be a lot of restaurants in England where the owner perhaps is British, but they have decided, we would like to sell Korean food. So I guess it doesn't really matter where you're from.
Unless you're trying to like do something like some sort of insult or some sort of like negative effect to one of the cultures involved. Just cook what you want.
Yes. I am British and I've learned to cook some Korean foods.
Correct.
And I love that.
Is it ramen?
Is it authentic though? No, it's the basics. I've learned kimchi jjigae, kimchi jjian, and doenjang jjigae as well. The soups. I started with the simple stuff.
Yeah. Soups are so good.
Anyway, let's start with the simple stuff and move on to the slightly more complicated things. We have some really useful words and phrases in the vocabulary section. They're very friendly. Let them cross your mind, absorb them, learn them, and use them in your everyday language. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Put up with.
Put up with.
Make fun of.
Make fun of.
Cheap shot.
Cheap shot.
Faux pas.
Faux pas.
Mill around.
Mill around.